Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Attic Crawl Space. And of course, the mystery remains. I know you've all been thinking about it. The tiny door. What is it? How'd it get there? Why would an architect build a door of that size into an otherwise normal-sized house? Or maybe it is a normal-sized door, and I've simply been 12 feet tall this whole time. You can never tell on TV. Or maybe, you guys, maybe it's a Malkovich door. I won't confirm or deny, but let's just say if you ever tune in and see John Malkovich doing Closer Look, someone please come pick me up on the side of the New Jersey Turnpike. Look, I know you're all wondering, so if you have any guesses, submit them to whatsupwithsethstinydoor@gmail.com. Maybe we'll read some on the air, maybe we won't. Who knows? Honestly, we might never even check that email, and you just have to be okay with that. It's a pandemic. There are no rules. And hey, while you're speculating about what's behind that door, the president is speculating about an unproven medical treatment for coronavirus after ignoring repeated warnings about the threat of a pandemic. Segue! For more on this, it's time for a closer look. It seems like almost every day we get more and more evidence that the Trump administration knew well in advance of the very real threat of a pandemic, and that they both ignored it and lied to the American people about it, despite the fact that the president keeps saying stuff like this.
Nobody could have predicted something like this.
Nobody knew there'd be a pandemic or an epidemic of this proportion. I just think this is something, Peter, that you can never really think is going to happen. It's an unforeseen problem. What a problem. Came out of nowhere. We're having to fix a problem that 4 weeks ago nobody ever thought would be a problem. It's something that nobody expected. I would view it as something that just surprised the whole world.
It's very telling about his psychological state that when he means I, he says nobody. Folks, nobody could have kept a casino open in Atlantic City. Nobody really blew it. Nobody sucks. So nobody could have seen this coming. Yeah, Taiwan and South Korea and New Zealand and Singapore were all surprised. That's why they have a combined total of 12,000 cases, and we have a total of 400,000 cases. Although in fairness, New Zealand had a huge advantage because they could call in those eagles from the end of Return of the King. And I'm sorry, guys, but where the hell were you this whole time? You're telling me Sam and Frodo spent 3 movies climbing Mount Doom, fighting giant spiders and getting stabbed by ring wraiths. And this whole time, they just could have hitched a ride on a giant bird. Oh, what? You don't do direct flights from Hobbiton? You guys are less reliable than Spirit. Although, I forgot it was called Hobbiton. Hey, JRR, what are you going to call the part of the Shire that Bilbo lives in? Well, I don't know. I was thinking maybe like Hobbiton? Oh, I don't know if Hobbiton's good. It sounds like a little lazy. No one's going to think I'm lazy. This thing's going to be like 1,000 pages. Hobbiton. Anyway, no. This did not surprise the whole world. Just because it surprised you doesn't mean it surprised the world. Everything surprises you. Even your own speeches surprise you because you so often are reading them out loud for the first time, which is why you do that weird thing where you're both reading and doing a DVD commentary on your own speeches. We will be sending aid to all 50 states. 50, wow. Wow, that's a big number, 50. Wasn't always 50. He's like a guy who walks into a birthday party when everyone yells surprise said, wow, we are all equally surprised. I can't believe we all got lured here under the same false pretenses. Did you guys also think this was going to be a quiet dinner for two? In fact, at one point, Trump even claimed that despite notable pandemics that have occurred throughout history, like the 1918 Spanish flu, nothing like this has ever happened before.
So there's never been anything like this in history. There's never been. Nobody's ever seen anything like this.
Stop saying nobody. People who were alive in 1918 have definitely seen something like this, and I'm pretty sure you're friends with like all of them. Wilbur, tell me what the Spanish flu was like. It was horrible. We had to subsist on a soup and a beer. Good thing I was over 21. That's not a Photoshop. I went on TV and had to have soup and beer. In fact, Trump keeps vaguely mentioning the 1918 flu pandemic, but for some reason, he keeps getting the date wrong by exactly 1 year.
Nobody's seen this, I would say, since 1917. Which was the greatest of them all, probably the greatest of them all, right? 1917. There's been nothing like this since probably 1917. That was the big one. You read about him. You read about him from 1917, and you read about him from lots of other times.
So I may have been late reacting to coronavirus, but I was a year early on the Spanish flu. Of course, no one writes about that, do they?
So I think I know what happened here. Trump knows there was a movie called 1917. He thought those guys looked kind of sick and just assumed it was about the Spanish flu. Of course, they're not sick, they're just British, which Trump would know if he hadn't turned off the movie to watch Rugrats. And yet, despite Trump's repeated claims that no one could have foreseen this, it turns out a lot of people foresaw this, including people in the Trump administration. Here's just a quick list. First, Obama officials walked Trump aides through a global pandemic exercise in 2017. Then, in 2017 and 2018, threat assessment intelligence analysts even mentioned a close cousin of coronavirus by name, saying it had pandemic potential. Then, in 2018, the director for medical and biodefense preparedness at the National Security Council told a symposium that the threat of pandemic flu is our #1 health security concern. Then, top administration officials said last year that the threat of a pandemic kept them up at night. Then, White House economists warned in 2019 a pandemic could devastate America. Then, intelligence reports warned of coronavirus crisis as early as November. And then, U.S. intelligence reports from January and February warned about a likely pandemic. Well, you know the old saying, 8 strikes and you're out. Seriously, how many incredibly specific warnings do you need? This is like getting a note that says, I know what you did last summer. Specifically, you hit a man with your car. And then you and Freddie Prinze Jr. decided to hide the body and pretend it never happened. And now, in an act of revenge, I'm going to systematically stalk and kill each of you one at a time. I am also sending this via email and will copy all above referenced parties.
I don't know what that means, what any of that means, but I think we should all go camping in the woods. I know a great place with no cell service.
In fact, in this White House, if you plunge your head in the sand and ignore reality, you can actually get rewarded. Case in point, yesterday, Trump appointed campaign spokesperson Kayleigh McEnany as the new White House press secretary. In February, over a month after our first confirmed case of coronavirus, McEnany said this.
This president will always put America first. He will always protect American citizens. We will not see diseases like the coronavirus come here. We will not see terrorism come here. And isn't that refreshing when contrasting it with the awful presidency of President Obama?
If you think going from this to this is refreshing, then you might not know what that word means. Trump looks like the physical embodiment of the feeling you get when you fall asleep on the couch and wake up after dark and you don't know what day it is. The only thing refreshing here is the Kool-Aid you drank. If Trump's going to hire people who go on TV and say things that are that wrong, he might as well hire this lady as the secretary of knowing who Greta Thunberg is.
The 2019 book entitled No One Is Too Small to Make a Difference is a collection of speeches made by a Swedish climate change activist. What's her name?
Sharon.
So close. First of all, I love that woman, and that clip will never not make me happy. Second of all, Sharon is such a bad guess for so many reasons, the least of which is how not Swedish Sharon sounds. These are my friends, Elsa and Ingrid and Sharon. Anyway, after all those warnings, on Tuesday we found out about yet another warning when it was reported that Trump's trade advisor warned the White House in January of the risks of a pandemic. And at the top of the document he wrote, it literally says Memorandum to President. Of course, Trump has probably never even heard the word memorandum before. He probably saw that and said, I can't read it. It's in Latin. So they knew, and they lied to you. They told you it wasn't a threat, but they knew it was, and they put lives at risk. Not to mention all the economic carnage they knew was coming. They knew. But here's another part of the problem. The guy who wrote that memo, Peter Navarro, is also a crank. Because what happens when an oatmeal-brained sociopath guts the civil service and surrounds himself with fringe right-wing weirdos? Even if someone's right, you don't know who to believe. For example, Navarro, a trade advisor, has been one of the loudest voices in the administration pushing the unproven malaria medication hydroxychloroquine for coronavirus. Now, Navarro has zero medical expertise, which led to this exchange on CNN on Monday.
My qualifications in terms of looking at the science is that I'm a social scientist, I have a PhD, and I understand how to read statistical studies, whether it's in medicine, the law, economics, or whatever.
I'm sorry, that doesn't qualify you to treat patients. Do you want an internist striking trade deals with Asian countries?
Yes, touche, sir. I doff my cap to you, sir. On the question of this potentially dangerous and unproven medication, you have checkmated me, sir. Well played, old chap. Bravo. These guys are so easy to outmaneuver. It's like playing tic-tac-toe with someone who doesn't realize you're supposed to make a straight line. Looks like my O's have all four corners. No, I beat you in 3 moves. Touche, old friend. Beat me you have. And if you're wondering how someone like Navarro ended up on Trump's team in the first place, according to Vanity Fair, at one point during the campaign when Trump wanted to speak more substantively about China, he gave Kushner a summary of his views and then asked him to do some research. Kushner simply went on Amazon, where he was struck by the title of one book, Death by China, co-authored by Peter Navarro. He cold-called Navarro, a well-known trade deficit hawk who agreed to join the team as an economic advisor. You know, we give Jared a hard time for having no skills or expertise, but in his defense, he has Amazon. Dude probably rocks Google too, and here I am giving him a hard time saying he has no idea what he's doing when he's probably asking Jeeves as we speak. And Trump has followed the lead of his grifter friends and allies in pushing hydroxychloroquine over the objections of Dr. Anthony Fauci, who said we need clinical trials to prove it's safe and effective. For example, it can have potentially lethal side effects on the heart. And yet Trump has brushed those concerns aside. According to the New York Times, Trump made a rare appearance in the Situation Room on Sunday as his pandemic task force was meeting, determined to talk about the anti-malaria medicine that he has aggressively promoted lately as a treatment for the coronavirus. Once again, the experts warned against overselling a drug yet to be proved, a safe remedy, particularly for the heart patients. Yes, the heart stuff, Mr. Trump acknowledged. Yes, the heart stuff. Thank you, doctor. I can see Trump walking in to give a patient the bad news.
Listen, Jim, I'm afraid it's heart stuff. And that's extra bad because, you know, you have that lung thingy.
It's clear that because he ignored repeated warnings about this horrific situation, Trump is now hoping there's a miracle cure that will get him off the hook. Just listen to him selling hydroxychloroquine in a bizarrely hushed tone at a White House press briefing on Saturday.
And I hope they use the hydroxychloroquine, and they can also do it with Z-Pak, subject to your doctor's approval and all of that. But I hope they use it because I'll tell you what do you have to lose? There's a possibility. And I say it, what do you have to lose? I'll say it again, what do you have to lose? Take it. I really think they should take it. But it's their choice, and it's their doctor's choice or the doctors in the hospital. But hydroxychloroquine, try it if you'd like.
My God, is anyone else creeped out by his tone of voice? I feel like he just pulled up in a windowless white van across from a high school.
Hey, kids, I got some hydroxychloroquine. It'll make you feel sky high. Try it if you like. Also, there's heart stuff.
Trump is desperately hoping this will all just go away, and that's why he's pushing an unproven miracle cure. This morning, he tweeted that once this deadly pandemic that created our economy is over, it must be quickly forgotten. But it shouldn't be forgotten. Our government, led by our sociopath president, ignored repeated warnings that a major public health and economic disaster was headed our way. And if you point that out to Trump and his supporters, the best they can counter with is...
with Asian countries?
This has been a closer look. City Harvest is such a great charity, and now they're working hard to support New York City families who are out of work due to the COVID-19 pandemic. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the donate button. Stay home, stay safe. We love you.